Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Cohasset Sports Update. As always, I'm your host, Ronan Carnes, and today we'll be wrapping up the fall season, talking about the Super Bowl champ football team. They completed their dominant run 2 weeks ago, shutting down the high-powered Amesbury offense and holding them to just 14 points, winning 22-14. Today, I'm joined by, is it three-time champion now? Three-time champion, Coach A. Coach A, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
How are you?
Very good, thank you. Very good. Thank you so much for having me.
I know you've probably had a lot of interviews in the past couple of weeks, so I hope I won't bore you too much.
But, school ones take priority over everything.
All right. How long have you been coaching here?
This is the conclusion of my 20th season here coaching Cohasset.
Does this year stand out to you at all?
It really does. You know, every year has its own challenges and rewards, and I really can't find a challenge associated with this group. You know, it was just such a good group of young men. They were excellent in the classroom. They were excellent in the hallways. They were excellent on the football field, obviously. But, you know, every year I usually have some kind of a headache that comes back to haunt me. And this year, in all seriousness, it was just such a rewarding group of kids in every facet of being a student athlete. As the coach, I can't be more proud of a group that I've been a part of.
So prior to the Super Bowl, I had an interview with Michael Wildfire, and I asked him some questions, and he talked a lot about how they enforced the weight room all the off season, and I feel as though it was like really apparent in the lines and everyone, I think. But how do you think they were able to stay motivated and true to their words, practically living in the weight room the off season?
The group of seniors in particular, they were sophomores when we got bumped out of the playoffs by St. Bernard's. And then they were juniors when Amesbury. They were sophomores when Amesbury took us out, and they were freshmen with St. Bernard's, sophomores with Amesbury, and last year with Clinton. And in all three of those instances, it was a matter of it wasn't about talent. It just those teams that knocked us out were bigger and stronger than us. And you know, as coaches, we talked to this team at the end of last season, and we've done that every year with all of the teams, but not all the teams take it to heart. And this team took it to heart. They were motivated in the off season. They were in there these 2 weeks after the season and before the Christmas break comes in. They were in there 5 days a week getting after it, and then they hit the gym again hard after the new year. And you know, it is a lot of commitment. It's a lot of sacrifice, but if that's what they wanted, they got what they wanted, and they got what they earned, because they definitely earned this with a year-round commitment in the weight room.
And I feel like it was just watching the games, just so apparent to see that they were just so much stronger. Like especially in the lines, like offensive and defensive line. I feel like it was just so great to watch, because the offensive line would just create a big hole for the running backs.
Gus himself had 2,000 yards, but when you take Michael, and then you take Michael Joyce, who kind of took a lot of reps for Gus when games were out of hand or whatever, the team ran for, I think it was over 3,000 yards. Wow. You know, and that's not just those skill kids, it's the line. And you look at our guys, they're not 270, 280, 300 pounds. They're, JT and Danny are our two biggest ones at like 220, 230, but they're strong as oxes. You know, they're just stronger than the teams that they went up against. And there is, in football of all sports, there is no substitute for being strong.
Yeah. And so the last team that won it was the 2021 team. Did you notice any parallels to that season?
So many. You know, in that year, we had to overcome some obstacles over the course of the regular season as well as during the playoffs. You know, in 2021, we lost our starting quarterback at the time in the semifinal. In the quarterfinals, we lost our quarterback. He separated his shoulder, so he wasn't available for the semifinal match. But then he was back for the Super Bowl. This year, we had lost Ollie for a good portion of the regular season as a linebacker. He came back just in time for the playoffs. Had a played a huge role in those first couple playoff wins. And then unfortunately Noah goes down with mono. So it's like both teams had to overcome obstacles from senior leadership. And in both cases, you know, they took on previously undefeated teams in the Gillette. They ended up with the exact same 11-2 records. Both Super Bowls, ironically, ended with defensive tackles for losses. You know, then the first one in 2021 was Brendan Singari sacking their quarterback, and this year it was Nick Askier I think it was their running back that was trying to look for a pass after a little bit of a flea flicker look, but the parallels were just they were uncanny. It was pretty cool. Now that I look back at it and think about them, there's a lot of continuity.
It's always cool, I feel like, to look at like two teams that are completely different personnel, but just have like just such similar, maybe not play styles, but just like results and like what they went through all season.
Oh, and another one of the contributing factors is the brother connection.
Yeah.
You know, there were older siblings. The Joyces, for example, their older brother Ben was on the team at that time, and now here they are. Danny Baker's older brother Will was a quarterback at that time. Now, so there's that kind of continuity where in the banquet yesterday I was talking about that. Being a younger brother myself, older brothers, I'm not sure where you stand, Ronan, with all the siblings and stuff, but it's like older brothers love to hold things over the younger brothers' heads. And I'm like, well, for a little while they would say, you don't have a ring. And now those younger brothers have the ability to say, you can't hold that over my head anymore. So that's nice on their behalf that I'm happy for them.
So in the fourth quarter, I think it was a tie game. And then obviously Gus had that huge rushing touchdown. Once he made it to that second level, broke through the D-line, what was going through your head?
Actually, it was funny. We were just talking about this yesterday, and I watched the game several times since the conclusion of the game. The preceding play, Gus took a pitch to the opposite side and was kind of pinned in around on their sideline and lowered his shoulder and just completely decleats number 56 for Amesbury. And it was literally the next play where if you watch that play develop, he has 6 kids that are within arm tackle of Gus, and they had no desire to go anywhere. And it's like they were playing tag, and he just was able to weave his way through there because he had been just thumping them all game long. Yeah. And they were like, this is like, they just didn't want to take him on one-on-one in the open field. And I was thinking, like, here he goes. And he has such an innate ability to stay. He's got great balance, and he gets near the boundary and uses that to his advantage where teams think that he might duck out of bounds, and then he's able to cut back across the grain and never lose momentum or his speed, and it was awesome.
Yeah. And this might be a little bit biased, but earlier in the season I asked JT and Michael about the student section.
Yep.
How do you feel that Super Bowl student section was?
Oh, I thought those guys were awesome. The fact that we were just into the stadium, we weren't even going through warm-ups, and I look up there and there's a half a dozen kids with no shirts on. It's like 15 degrees out. They were there for the duration, and it was just so clear that they were so into that atmosphere. And it makes everybody – I could hear the players on the field getting excited just seeing their fellow classmates. And I think regardless of the sport, whether it's football, soccer, field hockey, whatever the fall sports are, I think each team wants to see each other do well, and I think that resonates throughout all of the seasons. So seeing the student section, supporting us, and we're able to reward them with a fine performance, it really is a true community victory in that sense.
I was a little cold after that game.
I could only imagine. Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that, Ronan, because one of the officials, as we're talking about rules and so forth, he's like, are those, he points up to your section, he's like, are those your guys? I'm like, yeah. He's like, chances are they're not going to be in school tomorrow. I'm like, you'll be surprised. And then most of you guys showed.
I think everyone showed up to school.
I think you guys did. It was awesome.
Yeah. If you had one word to describe this year's senior class specifically, what would you use and why?
I wish I could boil it down to one. If I had to pick one, I'm going to say resilience. Resiliency and being resilient, but work ethic is another one because they don't become resilient without a really good work ethic. So the one that I have to pick is going to be resiliency, but they go hand in hand.
Yeah. And I hate to do this, but looking forward to next year.
Yeah. Do
you believe that season's already started? Because last year, in my experience, the soccer team, we graduate 16 seniors, 9 starters. I do really feel like it's always important to always touch a ball, working on like the craft and skills. So do you believe that the juniors, sophomores, and even freshmen have already bought into that?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously, and you guys had a great run last year as well. The buy-in is a little bit different for us. Obviously, it's much more. You guys have to develop the skill where we get to get in the weight room, and that's just it. We're losing some really strong kids, as we just talked about, Ronan, and it's like they're not even younger. The rising seniors and the rising juniors, which is going to make up the nucleus of the team. If they learned anything from this year, it's you can win a championship in the weight room in the off season. And right now they have 8 months to get themselves bigger, faster, stronger, so they can hit the ground running in August and have a chance at repeating.
So with this being your 20th year coaching at Cohasset, your 3rd Super Bowl, what kind of legacy are you aiming to cement when you do eventually step down as both a teacher and a coach? And how is the football program or the entirety of the sports department evolved in your time here?
I'll start with that second half
Yeah.
first. When I first got here, and I'm looking at the football team in particular, there were just about 30 kids that played football, freshmen through seniors.
Wow.
One of the guys that coaches, two of the gentlemen that coached with me, Coach Marr and Coach Cuneo, were on that team. Coach Marr was a freshman my first year, and Coach Cuneo was a junior. And then slowly, year after year, we went from 30 to 35, up to 45. And we've been holding true at about 50 to 55 kids for the last probably 15 years or so. And there have been a couple of bigger years, a couple of smaller years. And that can be, I think, holds true with all of the sports. I remember distinctly, the field hockey team being the largest girls' sport at that time, way back 20 years ago. But now they and soccer are relatively the same, still holding on to good numbers. Boys soccer has always had a really good turnout. What is different is, there's now a cross-country team that's doing very well, and that didn't happen when I was first here. That's something that's brand new. And we've somehow cheerleading has kind of fallen off the table, which is unfortunate, because that filled a nice niche, and it was good to have more kids involved in, the Friday night lights. Maybe that will come back in the near future. But as for the legacy, I to be honest, Ronan, I don't really think about that. My guiding principle in all that I do is, whether it's in teaching in the classroom or in coaching, whether it was for baseball for the time that I was there, is I just want to leave whether it be the football program, the classroom, or the baseball field, I want to leave the situation in a better place than I found it.
Yeah.
And I think with all of the help from the assistants over my years here, that they really have built a program collectively that this town can be proud of, and that I think the entire administration and student body and community can say, we're glad that this team is, who they are, and they represent us well. And not only do they represent us well, but they also handle the pressure well, and they can win. And I think that resonates with all of the sports. Every team has their own. The girls had a great run a couple of years ago. They've had a solid program for decades now under Beal. Willis does a great job. Coach Giuliano does a great job with the field hockey. So the fall sports really have set the tone for the school every year. And then the winter sports pick up that slack. So I just like to be a contributing factor to that, because there is so much success here. So I just want to try to do my fair share.
Yeah. I feel like all the coaches can say the same thing, leave it better than they found it. I feel like, at least since I've been here, every year it's gotten exponentially better just in those 4 years. So I feel like I can only imagine what the last 20 years have been like.
Yeah. It would be nice if I could sit up in that stand someday and just watch a game instead of being so invested in it, because it's, it is fun to be a part of it. But I bet at the same time, as a fan, you're probably like, some of the stuff is really entertaining, regardless of what the sport is.
Probably a little less stressful, too.
Yeah, and a lot less stressful.
Well, Coach A, thanks so much for coming on here today. It was an awesome ride, always fun to watch. And again, congratulations, and I wish you the best of luck in coming years.
Thank you, Ronan. I wish you the best of luck in college next
Thank
year,
you.
buddy.
Thank you so much.
All right.
And thank you for tuning in again. And that wraps up the first season of the Cohasset Sports Update. And thanks for watching.